あら、試しに兄の料理接してくれよ。
兄の料理ですか？じゃあ、お兄ちゃん。どうしたのお兄ちゃん。
いや、思ったより破壊力あるな。
何言ってるの？変な兄ちゃん。
これはやばい。
Hey yo, Nick Champ, pull up.
What is up, you virgins? It's LCast here, and the realm of ICA, Indian Contract Act, is it's ginormous, with the aim to make you a mind-fugged zombie to work for, and etc. I'll probably blow those out for legal reasons. Get it? It's law and legal reasons. Okay. Anyways, point being that you have to remember shit, a lot of it, and to get you through that, here's another video of basic shit you must know about ICA, sections 11 to 19. Before getting into this video, let me share a tip to make this all the less autistic to take in. These are our sections.
Boring fucking numbers.
And a lot of them over that, basically an average college online confession maker. So, for the purpose of this video, I have organized them in 3 bits, which will make it way easier on you to understand where I am going and, just make it easier to follow alongside what I'm saying. 3 criterias are right on the screen. Number 1, criterias, who would have thought? Number 2, keywords. They just define shit, single definitions. Yeah, it's cool and shit. And lastly, combination specific instances. These are basically expansions, just like mix and match and make something big. You get the idea. Just watch the video. Alright, now let's move on to set number 1. Well, it's just got 1 section, so I could have just, isolated it. But the reason why I have put it, as its own set is because let me just first describe this criteria, what I mean by criteria, as this basic English definition. Now for the purpose of this set, I will be giving over to Alexina, my partner from France, whom I do care about and who got legal access, I repeat legal access, into the country. Alexina, over to you.
Thank you, Ariane. A criteria is a set of do and don't one needs to fulfill in order to get something. Please help me, I'm not a robot disperver. Ouch. That was just a joke, guys. Relax. Oh shit.
Hello.
Sorry, Ariane, I forgot what to say next.
Right. So, do you want to just go back to the room? Okay, no, never mind. Just show that, show the phone to the microphone. I'll just take care of the rest.
But it's already on the microphone.
What? Okay, hey guys, we just keep on doing these kind of jokes and LCAS, we're one family at the end of the day. We're just one family, but let me get to explaining that. 1 second, just need to talk to Alexina for a
I'm sorry, please don't make me listen to Pizzeria loop again.
Now, where were we? Well, Alexina has probably taught you guys of what is a criteria. So let us move on with section 11. Basically, the section 11 changes the question of basically what is asked in section 10. Section 10 says, what is an agreement? And section 11 states, who can contract? And there are 3 criteria for that. Criteria? So in any case, we have 3 criteria. Criteria number 1 is that you have to be the age of majority as per the law you're subject to. AKA, how international contracts can also exist. And in other countries, not just in India, the age of majority can be different. So as per that, that this basic provision allows for, international contracts to take place. You get the idea. Number 2 is you have to be of sound mind, sane, just have general perception. You should be pagal wagal nahi hona chahiye. And number 3 is you should not be disqualified from contracting. There are instances and cases where, people have gotten disqualified from contracting because of, reasons such as, you don't have the finances to cover that, or you're fraudulent, you have a reputation, things like that. But yeah, that basically covers the section. And now we move on to category 2 after criteria. Category 2 talks about keywords. So many of us who might think of keywords may only refer to section 2 as in, it has all the basic keywords we know, that are contracts, promises, proposals, etc. However, what's funny is the fact that you will be using sections 12 to 18 more times than you will be using section 2 throughout your whole law school, or like even if you get into the profession itself, because of how, just niche these terms are. What do I mean by niche? As in they have their own specific purpose. Section 2 gave us some terms which are quite basic and could be used more fluidly. Sections 12 to 18 have more specific purposes, and here they are. Section 12 defines sound mind, but the only thing you really have to remember is that at the moment of contracting, the person should be of sound mind. Only then they can contract. Section 13 speaks on consent, so first ingredient is quite obvious. There should be 2 or more people, because you cannot just give yourself consent. You have to give someone else consent. And number 2 is that you have to agree on the same thing in the same sense. Yeah. Section 14 is the extension of section 13 in the sense that it defines free consent. Free consent is practically consent, but you're not forced, or there's no other force outside your power which is making you do the following consent. These outside powers include coercion, which is section 15, undue influence, which is section 16, fraud, which is section 17, misrepresentation, which is section 18, and mistake, which is not listed in our criteria today. And just a pro tip, if you ever forget any sections between 15 to 18, it's so simple just to remember section 14, because you have all of the other sections already listed in it, so you don't have to think of the other sections, and you can always just refer to section 14 and just stop there. Section 15 speaks of coercion. Section 15 can essentially be divided into 2 parts. Part 1 says that it's the committing or threatening to commit any act or conduct or whatever which is forbidden in the Indian Penal Code, which is the criminal code of the country. And part 2, which says that it's the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain property with the intent of affecting the contract. So while section 1 whilst part 1 speaks of the more just general, vague, just everything which is in IPC, that sort of things, part 2 focuses really on property. So if you really want to just remember this, just think of this as going from vague to specific, IPC to property. Now section 16 is probably one of the simplest sections because it speaks of undue influence. That's practically where one of the parties is in a position of power, say a teacher to a student, a boss to its employee, etc. And they can basically assert their influence because, with positions come power, and not all powers, are just written in stone. So you can use that sort of influential power to favor the contract, in your side. That's just an example, but you get the point. And now we come on to section 17. Section 17 basically speaks of fraud. Now fraud can also be divided into 2 parts. Part 1 says who is a party to this fraud. It's either the one doing it or their partner. In this situation, I have used the word partner because in the Bare Act for Indian Contract Act, it says like connivance and agent, but we are using the KISS method here, so it doesn't matter. Now part number 2 states that it should be with the intention to deceive the other party, and gives us 5 circumstances where it will apply. Circumstance number 1, you lie. Number 2, you hide some material fact. Number 3, you make promises without the intention of fulfilling it. Number 4, it's basically any other act you do to deceive the person. Number 5 is any acts which are declared fraudulent by law. And the last section in this category, section 18. So just like section 17, which that was fraud, section 18 speaks of misrepresentation. Now there is no direct definition, and it's basically divided into 3 circumstances. Circumstance number 1, you make something appear as if it's true and the other person just believes it. Circumstance number 2, there is a breach of duty even if there's no intention to deceive, but the person gains an advantage. And lastly, causing, regardless of how innocent you may be, the other party to make mistakes on the thingies of the contract. We come on to the last category, extensions. Now, in short, extensions practically refer to the combinations of several sections, or where several sections play major parts, which is, for in this case, section 19. Now, this section talks about voidability without free consent. Now, we have to understand one thing, the difference between void and voidability. Void refers to the complete nullification of a circumstance or a contract. Voidability is an option, whether you can choose to avoid it or you can choose to continue with it. That is what is meant by voidability. Now, this section practically says that if your consent was caused by coercion, fraud, or misrepresentation, which is not free consent as is seen in section 14, then it's at your option whether it should be avoided or not. However, there is an exception to this section. The exception being that if the consent was caused by misrepresentation, silence, or as section 17 says, fraud, the contract won't be voidable. Why? Because if the parties whose consent was taken could have discovered the truth with ordinary means, there is no meaning behind giving them the benefit of the doubt. And that is a wrap, folks. It seems that the time constraints have been really getting to me. I've been trying to make these videos shorter. However, you know, I'm still a newbie at this, though given the amount of content I'm covering, I think I'm still in a fairly decent category. So, you know, if you guys have any suggestions, as always, leave them down in the comments, and yeah, ciao.